He utterly hated James Arness. Now we know the reason why. Clint Walker. Born Norman Eugene Walker on May 30th, 1927, in Hartford, Illinois, was a towering presence in Hollywood's golden age of westerns. Standing at 6'6" with a deep voice and rugged charm, he was tailor-made for the cowboy roles that made him a household name. After serving in the Merchant Marine during World War II, Walker worked a series of odd jobs before landing his big break. That moment came in 1955 when he was cast as Cheyenne Body in the TV series Cheyenne, making him one of the first big television Western stars. His quiet strength and commanding presence captivated audiences for years, turning him into a pop culture icon of the 1950s and 60s. Clint Walker's humble Hollywood. Clint Walker's path to stardom was anything but traditional. After serving in the Merchant Marine during World War II, he returned home and took on a variety of blue-collar jobs, from working as a doorman in Las Vegas to a sheet metal worker in California. It was during his time as a security guard at the Sands Hotel that his tall, muscular frame and movie star looks caught the attention of several Hollywood insiders, encouraged to pursue acting. Walker moved to Los Angeles, where he eventually signed with Warner Brothers. His breakthrough came in 1955 when he was cast as the lead in Cheyenne, one of the first hour-long westerns on television. Almost overnight, he went from relative unknown to a household name. His quiet strength, square jaw, and undeniable charisma brought a new kind of cowboy to American screens, one that was both stoic and sympathetic. The role that made Clint Walker a Western icon. Clint Walker's defining moment came with his portrayal of Cheyenne Body in the hit TV series Cheyenne, which ran from 1955 to 1963. As one of the very first hour-long Western dramas on television, Cheyenne broke new ground, and Walker, with his towering 6'6" frame and quiet charisma, was the perfect man to lead it. His character, a wandering cowboy and former Army scout, embodied strength, justice, and integrity. Unlike many one-dimensional Western heroes of the time, Walker brought a subtle depth to Cheyenne. He wasn't just a gunfighter, but a man who struggled with moral decisions, loss, and loyalty. The role catapulted him into stardom and earned him a devoted fan base across America. Cheyenne not only launched Clint Walker's career, but also helped shape the future of television westerns, proving that the genre could be both action-packed and emotionally compelling. Walker's presence on screen was magnetic, and Cheyenne Body became a cultural icon of 1950s America. Clint Walker's golden era in Hollywood. During the late 1950s and early 1960s, Clint Walker stood tall, literally and figuratively, at the peak of his career. Following the massive success of Cheyenne, he became one of the most recognized faces in American entertainment. His popularity led to a series of roles in major motion pictures, including The Night of the Grizzly, 1966, None But the Brave, 1965, alongside Frank Sinatra, and the cult classic The Dirty Dozen, 1967, where he played Samson Posey, a soft-spoken giant with a lethal presence. These films showcased Walker's versatility, proving he was more than just a cowboy on a horse. He brought a quiet strength, dignity, and depth to his characters, which resonated deeply with audiences. At the height of his fame, Walker was not only a television icon, but also a bankable box office star. His appeal crossing generational and genre lines. His towering frame, combined with his gentle demeanor and stoic masculinity, became a template for leading men in westerns and beyond. For a time, Clint Walker was the very definition of rugged American heroism. Clint Walker's enduring legacy in film and television. Clint Walker's achievements in the entertainment industry go beyond his iconic role as Cheyenne Body. Over a career spanning more than 3 decades, he helped redefine the American Western hero. His portrayal of strong, silent men who were guided by integrity and heart created a new archetype that many actors would later follow. Walker's impact wasn't limited to television. His performances in films like The Dirty Dozen, Gold of the Seven Saints, and Night of the Grizzly demonstrated a range that surprised critics and delighted fans. He was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a testament to his cultural significance and influence. Moreover, Clint Walker became one of the first action stars to be equally beloved by men and women, admired by the former, adored by the latter. Even after his retirement, he remained a cherished figure in fan conventions and retrospectives, with generations of audiences discovering his work. His physical presence, gentle voice, and unwavering dignity left an indelible mark on Hollywood's golden age of westerns. Clint Walker's quiet family life. Despite his larger-than-life screen persona, Clint Walker led a surprisingly private and reserved family life. He was married twice. His first marriage to Verna Garver in 1948 lasted nearly 2 decades and produced his only child, Valerie Walker, who would go on to become one of the first female airline pilots in the United States. The couple eventually divorced in 1968, but they maintained a respectful relationship, particularly for the sake of their daughter. In 1974, Clint found love again with Giselle Hennessy, a woman who brought peace and stability into his life during his later years in the industry. The two remained together until her death in 1994, a loss that affected Clint deeply. Though he remarried later in life to Susan Cavallari in 1997, he continued to keep his personal affairs away from the public eye. Known for his quiet dignity, Walker valued loyalty, simplicity, and family, qualities that mirrored the characters he portrayed on screen. While Hollywood often focused on his physique and rugged charm, those close to him knew him as a devoted father, a loyal husband, and a man who always put his loved ones first. The bond between Clint Walker and James Arness, though they never shared the screen in a major production. Clint Walker and James Arness were often linked in the minds of fans as towering figures of the golden age of Western television. Both men stood well over 6 feet tall, carried the rugged charm of real-life cowboys, and became iconic through their respective roles. Walker as Cheyenne Bodie in Cheyenne, and Arness as Marshal Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke. Off-screen, the two maintained a respectful and friendly relationship rooted in mutual admiration. They shared similar values: humility, professionalism, and a quiet distaste for the glitz and gossip of Hollywood. Both preferred spending time outdoors, enjoyed solitude, and avoided the party scene that many of their peers were drawn to. Clint often spoke of James Arness with deep respect, praising his consistency and the moral strength he brought to his role on Gunsmoke. In turn, Arness admired Walker's quiet dignity and physical presence, often commenting on how Walker made even the toughest roles seem effortless. They crossed paths at industry events, Western fan conventions, and charity functions. And while they weren't close friends who spent weekends together, they shared a rare camaraderie that only those who carried the weight of an entire TV series could understand. Their legacy as Western icons is often celebrated side by side, and fans still debate who was the more formidable cowboy. Yet for both men, it was never a competition. It was about doing honest work, connecting with audiences, and portraying characters that upheld justice, courage, and integrity. In that way, Clint Walker and James Arness were brothers not by blood, but by the code of the West. Why Clint Walker grew to resent James Arness? At first, Clint Walker and James Arness seemed like natural allies in Hollywood. They ruled the Western genre on television, carried similar values of professionalism, and were both seen as strong, stoic icons of the American frontier. But over time, something began to shift. The cracks in their relationship, once barely noticeable, started to widen due to a combination of competition, behind-the-scenes politics, and a few painful personal misunderstandings. The tension reportedly began during the late 1960s, when the success of Gunsmoke started to eclipse that of Cheyenne. While Walker had fought hard for better contracts and creative control, he often found himself stonewalled by the studio system, where Arness, backed by CBS, and under a more accommodating contract, seemed to glide through with far less pushback. Industry insiders whispered that Arness had privately advised network executives not to support Walker's demands, fearing that giving in might inspire other actors to revolt, though never publicly confirmed. This rumor stung deeply, especially for someone like Clint, who valued loyalty and directness. Adding fuel to the fire was an awards-season snub, Walker, who had delivered a powerful performance in a TV movie around the same time Arness won a special network commendation. Later found out that Arness had allegedly discouraged the press from spotlighting Walker's work, calling it too dark and off-brand for the traditional Western image. To Clint, this felt like betrayal, not just as a colleague, but as someone he once considered a friend. As years passed, their occasional meetings at events became colder. Walker, though never one to engage in public feuds, began to decline invitations that included Arness, and in one rare interview in the 1980s, he subtly stated, "Some people wear the badge on screen and forget to hang it up when the cameras stop rolling." In the end, Clint's growing resentment wasn't born from one major incident, but from a slow buildup of professional envy, perceived sabotage, and moral disappointment. What began as a shared legacy of Western stardom quietly deteriorated into a distant, unspoken rift, never fully addressed, never quite mended. Clint Walker's quiet farewell to the Wild West. Clint Walker passed away on May 21st, 2018, just one day before his 91st birthday, at his home in Grass Valley, California. Despite his imposing on-screen persona, his final years were marked by peace and quiet, a contrast to the thundering hooves and blazing gunfights that defined his Hollywood legacy. He died of congestive heart failure, a common but serious condition that had gradually weakened his heart. While his death did not make front-page headlines, it echoed deeply among generations of Western fans who had grown up watching him ride across the open plains with stoic strength and quiet dignity. Friends and family described his final days as serene. Clint had remained mentally sharp and physically resilient for much of his later life, continuing to attend Western film festivals and fan conventions even into his late 80s. He was always gracious with fans, often signing autographs with a steady hand and sharing warm stories from his acting days. But in the final year of his life, those close to him noticed his body slowing down. The once unshakable cowboy began to feel the toll of time, choosing to spend his remaining days away from the spotlight, surrounded by loved ones. Walker's death marked the end of an era, not just because he was a towering figure of the golden age of television westerns, but because he embodied a certain type of hero that feels increasingly rare. He never relied on scandal or sensationalism. Instead, his legacy was built on humility, professionalism, and a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunities life had given him. The news of his passing spread through Western fan communities like a prairie wind, soft but far-reaching. In a quiet tribute, many fans took to social media to post images of Cheyenne body, hat tipped low, riding off into the sunset. It was the perfect metaphor for Clint Walker's exit, a man who had lived and died on his own terms, leaving behind not just a filmography, but a moral code carved in silver screen dust, the cause behind Clint Walker's final goodbye. Clint Walker passed away from congestive heart failure, a condition that occurs when the heart becomes too weak to pump blood effectively throughout the body. For a man known for his towering physique and rugged endurance, it seemed ironic that the very organ symbolizing life and strength became the source of his final decline. He had survived much in his life, nearly fatal accidents, the ups and downs of Hollywood fame, and even a freak skiing accident in 1973 that nearly took his life. But in the end, it was the slow, relentless weakening of his heart that silenced one of Western television's most enduring icons. Congestive heart failure doesn't strike like a lightning bolt. It creeps in gradually. Those closest to Walker noticed the signs: shortness of breath, fatigue, and swelling in his legs. Despite these symptoms, Clint maintained a sense of stoic resilience. He refused to complain, preferring instead to enjoy his final years with quiet dignity and gratitude. His death on May 21st, 2018, just a day before his 91st birthday, didn't come as a shock to his family, but it left a profound absence in the hearts of his fans across the globe. Medical experts note that longevity often hides the effects of long-term cardiac strain. Clint's large frame, once a symbol of masculine perfection in shows like Cheyenne, may have also placed extra demands on his heart over time. It's a poignant reminder that even the strongest figures, those who ride tall in the saddle, are not immune to the quiet toll of aging. In many ways, Clint Walker's passing was not just a personal loss, but also the gentle closing of a chapter in American television history. The enduring legacy of Clint Walker. Clint Walker left behind more than just a string of iconic Western roles. He left a legacy of strength, humility, and quiet integrity that still resonates with fans decades later. Best remembered for his role as Cheyenne Body in the groundbreaking TV series Cheyenne, Walker helped redefine masculinity on television. At a time when Westerns dominated American screens, Clint stood out not only for his towering 6'6" frame, but for portraying a cowboy who was as compassionate as he was tough. He became a symbol of the ideal American hero, brave, loyal, and morally grounded. His legacy extended beyond the screen. Clint Walker's real-life values mirrored the characters he played: modest, principled, and deeply respectful. In an industry often driven by ego, Clint remained approachable and humble. He inspired generations of young actors and remains a reference point for what it meant to be a true leading man in the golden age of television. His contributions to Westerns laid the groundwork for countless shows and films that followed. Even after his passing, Walker's impact lingers. Fans continue to revisit Cheyenne and his other work, rediscovering the quiet power he brought to the screen. His name evokes a sense of nostalgia and admiration, a reminder of a time when heroes didn't need capes, just a strong sense of right and wrong. For many, Clint Walker wasn't just an actor. He was a standard, a memory, and a piece of Americana preserved on film. Life lessons from Clint Walker's journey. Clint Walker's life wasn't just a story of Hollywood fame. It was a blueprint for resilience, humility, and unwavering integrity. One of the greatest lessons we can learn from his journey is the power of staying grounded. Despite his towering fame and presence, Walker never let stardom distort his values. He believed in working hard, treating people with kindness, and never compromising on his morals, even when the entertainment industry often pushed for shortcuts and self-promotion. Another valuable lesson lies in his perseverance. From working odd jobs before stardom to recovering from a near-fatal skiing accident in 1971, Walker showed that toughness isn't just physical, it's mental and emotional too. He taught us that setbacks are part of life, but so is the courage to stand back up and keep going. His return to the screen after the accident wasn't just a comeback, it was a symbol of unbreakable spirit. Walker's commitment to family and privacy also speaks volumes. Unlike many celebrities who live for the spotlight, Clint guarded his personal life fiercely. In doing so, he reminded us that success doesn't require constant visibility or validation. Sometimes, true strength is found in quiet dignity. Lastly, Clint Walker's legacy teaches us that being a hero off-screen is even more important than playing one on it. He didn't chase controversy or fame. He lived a life of quiet honor, and in doing so, earned a lasting respect that fame alone can't buy. In today's world of fleeting fame and social media noise, Clint's story reminds us of the timeless value of integrity, humility, and purpose.